long enough.
Who are you? You wait and see.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Wonderful. So, Francis, I must tell you, Emily has come at a very opportune time in the Hindu culture, because we have just celebrated Navratri, which is actually a full tribute to women empowerment and
Oh, amazing.
the divine feminine energy. So I think Emily is a film that will definitely be resonated with all of us, and especially the artists and the creatives. So
Wow.
tell me, which personal aspects did you internalize on through making the film, and did you kind of feel that Emily, in a way, was also an extension of your younger self?
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, I really feel like what I went through as a young woman, I always felt there was a gap between who I really, really was and who I was supposed to be. And I feel like that's something that Emily also experienced. I think she was a very unique person. She was an introvert, but she had this amazing kind of creative spirit to her and energy. And so, yeah, I really do kind of have always kind of deeply related to her as a person. And and just a fan of her poetry and her literature as well. But it's interesting you should say that thing about celebrating feminine creative energy, because that's something that's very much a part of this film for me as well.
Exactly.
So I was
Yeah.
interested in exploring, for me, like Weightman really represents the kind of masculine, more, um, connected to dogma and religion. And Emily is just kind of wild, creative, feminine energy, and the kind of push-pull between the masculine and the feminine is kind
Right.
of important in the film. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's why it's very ironic how I've literally watched that film during the celebrations of Navratri. So it's
Oh,
really
that's
wonderful to sort of get that opportunity actually. But I must tell you, I mean, you're a first-time director, and it did not feel like as if this was your first film. I must tell you, I was in absolute awe of the movie. I actually, dare I say, I think it's probably one of my favorite films this year, actually.
Oh my gosh.
And I must say, your vision as a director is tremendous. I mean, the camera shots and background score, I mean, it's an absolute visual treat. So tell me, what inspired your decisions as a filmmaker? And how has your craft as an actor actually helped you with stepping into the shoes of a director?
Yeah, I think for me, I wanted to tell a story that felt for the audience very immersive. So for me, sound was very important. The breath of the actors, being able to hear that was very important. And the score to kind of create emotion, all those elements were really important. And then also we kind of had this very gentle handheld camera work that is kind of sending the message to the audience, oh, we're just documenting these people, and that it feels very kind of real. So there were and then also like to put it, in this 2:3:9 aspect ratio, so it feels very classic and beautiful with these anamorphic lenses that are very kind of beautiful, and again kind of creates atmosphere. So all these elements kind of help to kind of create this immersive world for the audience, this kind of feeling of being on the Yorkshire moors and with these people. Yeah.
Right. Now, we are living at a time when women across the globe are succeeding in every field. Even in Indian cinema now, we're seeing so many more powerful stories of women. We're even seeing grey characters emerge as well, a lot more as well. But patriarchy, as you know, Francis, is still very rampant. It still exists within the fabrics of our society. So how do you feel, I guess, the movie can act maybe as a slight catalyst for implementing social change when it comes to women in the creative field and giving them that freedom of expression?
Yeah, I mean, I think cinema particularly is still very dominated by the male perspective.
True.
And, I mean, all these like the Marvel films, they're great and I love them. And I think what's great in those films now, the kind of softening of the kind of hardcore masculine kind of personality, it's kind of softened into something that's kind of really great. But I still feel like that if you don't have women directing or in front of the behind the camera, then it's still going to be that kind of more masculine perspective. So I think I'm really interested in making films that reach a lot of people and could kind of help be part of the conversation of changing that. And that's so thrilling for me that if people connect to this film and feel that way too. For me, that's kind of really, really thrilling. Yeah.
Well, on that note, unfortunately, we've run
Oh,
out of
cool.
time,
Oh, that was great.
Francis. But I think it's a great film. And I think me as an Indian, and I think South Asians generally will be able to relate because somehow there is a bit of that Emily within all of us, especially if you're in the creative field. So I
Oh,
genuinely
cool.
related with it. So thank you so much,
Oh, I hope
Francis, for
so.
joining me on Filme
Oh,
Shilmy.
lovely to
Wishing you all
meet
the
you.
very best.
Cool. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Actually, I thought halfway through I planned to be a lot more eloquent, but when you get up there, it just gets...
Nature is always an inspiration.
Yes, nature was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Though, Job is very dramatic. I nearly went for Job.
The rain was a good choice.
Thank you.
I do wonder, though, how does God squeeze himself into all that rain? Wouldn't he get wet?
Perfect. Hi, Oliver. A warm welcome to you on Filme Shilmy. In fact, Oliver, I want to begin by saying that I actually read an interview, and you said that you were not aware of Emily Brontë nor Wuthering Heights. So, what did you discover about your craft as an actor and about Emily herself? While sort of navigating this sort of unknown world for the film.
Ooh, well, when I said that, what I meant was that I mean, obviously I knew of her and I knew of the book, but I went to a French school, so I'd never studied it in school. So I wasn't, I had a sort of vague knowledge of this family, but the kind of literary aspect I hadn't necessarily explored previously. But as an actor, I don't know how what I learned about myself as an actor. I mean, I think that so much of it, Francis had written such an incredible script, and so delving into that and delving into the sort of religious part of this man's journey, and what he ends up having to sacrifice or not sacrifice, all of that was kind of great fun to do, but I don't know necessarily what I learned about myself.
Right. And I think what's fascinating about you, Oliver, is that you've often played characters which are quite complex and layered. And quite grey, I would also say, as well, in many occasions. So tell me, how has playing such roles, and I think given what you just said about your role in Emily, how has playing such roles actually, helped you to discover your qualities as well and your flaws as a human being?
Oh, well, I think, I mean, I can't say this for all actors, but I think definitely I try to do work that resonates in some sort of part of me. So whether or not it's, if you take sort of Emily, for example, it's all about repression. It's about how much we're repressing how we feel and holding that down, and the desire, and then the mind kind of trying to shut that down. So, and I think that's something that universally we all understand to varying degrees. And so that was definitely something that I feel like I kind of tuned into. But I feel like all of these characters they're all sort of part of me in some way, even like the really, really dark ones. They're just the parts of ourselves that we don't like to acknowledge, and in a way it's probably healthier to kind of to tap into that stuff and then leave it where it is, in a safe space.
And I think kudos goes to you as well, because as far as I've read up and a lot of things, you've always been someone who has been very vocal about, sort of speaking about our vulnerabilities as human beings, and the sort of dark past that we may have all gone through at some point in our lives.
Yeah.
But I think when you, like you mentioned about the whole suppression aspect, when you look at the struggles of someone of like what Emily went through and what women at that time endured, especially when it came to the creative expression, how does that impact your idea of success and I guess internalizing pain through the craft of acting?
Whew. I think that there's like it's something that we all know, that like if you are authentic to a certain extent, like that's always a good kind of way to go. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like success, is such a weird thing because it changes constantly, and you know, success is this sort of like weird thing that how do you kind of pinpoint what that is, and it's different for every single person, and it's quite unique and personal to each individual. So, but all I kind of know is that I feel incredibly fortunate I get to do this job, and really fortunate that I get to work with the people that I work with, and incredibly fortunate that I get to use all of my vulnerability. I feel like I'm not great at living normal life, and so for me this is an incredible outlet for me to put all of my pain and happiness and vulnerabilities and insecurities, all of that into work. I feel really, really like unbelievably fortunate that I get to do that.
Wonderful. Well, Oliver, thank you so much for joining me on Filme Shilmy. It was so wonderful to chat with you. And Emily's a fabulous film, and your work was brilliant as always in that as well. Thank you so much.
Freedom in thought!
Freedom in thought!
Emily Jane. I think Reverend Miller might have just fallen off his chair in the rectory. Good.
Freedom in thought!
Freedom in thought!
Freedom in thought!
Freedom in thought!